Yes, so we are here with Tiffany. Welcome, Tiff.
Thank you.
And we've met some time ago in Tulum, and we became friends. And I could call you friend today,
Absolutely.
and I'm very happy about that.
Absolutely.
And Tiffany is specialized in nutrition, one of her specialties. And so we decided to have this conversation to talk about things that are empowering to us human beings, and that's the most important thing. So I have a few questions, but I like first for you to say something about yourself, just very briefly, not.
Yeah,
What do
sure.
you wanna
Thank
share?
you for having me. Thank you for inviting me here.
Sure.
This is amazing. So I'm a holistic nutritionist by career title, let's say. I've been working in the alternative health field for probably the better part of 8 years. I did a whole career change. I went from working in the finance industry actually, and in many years in hospitality. And I went back to school and I studied holistic nutrition because I love the idea of holism, like the mind, body, soul connection when it comes to anything when your vessel.
Sure.
And I started with my sister and I did a juicing company, so we were in that industry for a little while. And then I sort of found myself eventually doing recipe curation for a really big meal kit company in Canada. So that was cool, and it was a startup, so the whole entrepreneurial thing was really close to my heart, and I loved it. And then I think I kind of shifted out of that to kind of working for myself, or still trying to build that aspect of it, and have that more that freedom. Mm-hmm. And now I'm living in Mexico, and
Right.
I actively these days am working with the WeEvolve platform. So it's like a natural disease reversal website, and has over 400 videos. My sister's the one who founded it, and
Beautiful.
yeah, I do a lot of the management, client management. I do the coaching through there as well. So that's a big part of what I'm doing these days. And I'm working on other projects, like I did animation.
Yes.
So I'm working on an animation series to add to the plethora of really cool content.
Cool.
I love content creation, so
Yes,
that's a
yes.
really big part of it. And I think in terms of what I stand for when it comes to health and wellness, it's about empowerment.
Yes.
And I think
Yes.
I follow
Yeah,
that most lines of my life, and you're on the same
Yes,
page
we are.
about that.
We
But
are.
yeah.
Yeah, so I wanted to have a few things so people that will listen to this can actually practice immediately and have very quick change. Not quick in time, but quick in impact, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I wanted to address first, because you have so much knowledge on that, the energy in food, because we are made of energy, we are vibrational beings.
Yes.
But it's a vessel, as you said, and we need fuel to continue. So what is the energy in food? How do you learn about that?
I think so. Let's say on the scientific plane, you learn about it. There are measurements. There's equipment that measure energy in food. Like if we were looking at it from a science perspective. So energy is food is not just about calories. Calories is the way you measure it when you're consuming the food, how much it raises in temperature. But hertz is a really common way that people will actually, scientists will actually measure the energy that's in an actual food item.
Correct.
And basically at the end of the day is we are energetic beings, and everything that is in our world is actually an energy. So we have to decide what energies we want to interface with. Are they going to help create higher resonance in us, or are they going to remove resonance and actually cost us, right? Like the caloric cost of something. Because whatever you bring into your body, if it doesn't have life-giving properties and it doesn't have light energy, you're donating energy to be able to even consume it and rid it, let's say.
So instead of uplifting your energy, it will kind of crash,
Yeah, well, it'll steal energy from you.
Right.
Anything, food could be energy vampire.
Wow, that's incredible.
So it's vibrational foods is cool, and then that's when it comes back down to what are the best foods for us. And so this is a bit more of a controversial topic, because the reality is that if you look at plants, they're grown in great soil, and they have life-giving energy from the sun, and they're grown in all the elements, and then they've had to jostle with the wind and the insects to be alive, and they have this certain fortitude, and then you're consuming that life force in them.
Yeah.
They have raw enzymes in them, they're unadulterated. So you're getting from Mother Earth the absolutely best stuff for your body, and then you're taking that life force and you're putting it into your body.
Right.
And so what is it doing? It's giving you life force.
Right.
The way that it's breaking down in your body. And so you're basically just transmuting from your environment that energy, that sunshine, and all those soil microorganisms, and that's going into your body.
Right.
Yeah. If you look at something that's a dead food, let's say something that's been completely processed and completely adulterated, it has very little enzyme or live components to it.
There's no energy in it.
Your body, when you consume that food, your body will, in order for you not to be poisoned by it, your body is set up with mechanisms to donate minerals and vitamins as cofactors so that you can assist with the digestive process of something that ultimately has no energetic value for you.
So that would be you were actually taking energy of your body to process the food instead of getting energy from it.
Exactly.
Crazy.
So over time, what ends up happening when you are constantly putting energy out, you're becoming weaker, you're becoming sick, your processes in your body don't function as well, the mental cognition isn't there, you might become depressed and sad. So like everything is sort of this, we're an organism as part of a much bigger system, or systems basically.
Right, of organisms.
So if you are never creating energy loops that are positive feedback, how are you going to sustain yourself as a thriving organism?
You kind of drive yourself to the ground. So yes, so that brings to me the discussion we had not too long ago about the inside of your body, not only organs, but what we call, it is known as the second brain in a sense. So it's like the gut.
The gut
is your second brain, because there's a whole city of incredible beings living
it's like
there.
Zion from the Matrix.
It's like Zion in the belly, and it's actually bringing you forward or not.
It is the line between life and death, because 80% of your immune system is your gut bacteria, and if you were to lose it without an immune system, you would die. And that is bigger conversations to have about autoimmune diseases and stuff.
Right. So how do we know? How would I know today how's my gut doing? And like, do I get thirstier? Like, what is the basics for you to know how your second brain is doing? Because this one you can actually feel it, and you're thirsty and you have a headache, and maybe it's not, you're not perceiving things properly. It's very clear, but the other one you don't know.
So that's a great point. Your cognitive function, because you have the direct communication between your gut bacteria and your cognitive function, it's actually like it works through your nervous system, and they're both connected. It's called the gut-brain axis.
Cool.
And if you have fatigue, your brain isn't functioning properly, you have forgetfulness, or you have kind of many mental disorders, a whole spectrum of them, from bipolarism to autism to schizophrenia to eating disorders.
Alzheimer's probably disease.
Alzheimer's is an interesting one, because I don't know enough about the gut link to Alzheimer's. I know the heavy metal link to Alzheimer's.
Right.
So aluminum and mercury and those kinds of things that
cuts the brain.
Yeah, that ends up it creates a coagulation, and you have bad circuitry. That's really what it is. So it interferes with the communication.
Sure.
Is there a microbiome component? Most likely. I don't know all that much about it just yet.
Sure.
But I would definitely bet that there is. I would say that with the deep connection,
Yes. And so the gut, so maybe connecting to the body first to know how you really feel, and then connecting to the food, that what makes you actually feel better when you consume it.
Yeah.
So that's kind of basics.
Yeah.
But the what intrigues me is the idea of there's an intelligence. There's a city within your body that is intelligent and is trying to help you in a sense. So how does that work?
So basically, we're more bacteria than we are human cells, and a ton of that bacteria is in our actual gut, and it helps us do everything from digest food to proper cell signaling. Again, it comes back to our mental function, and it basically governs so many of the way that our organs work. And so when you kind of wipe that out, you set yourself up for a situation where you can begin a rapid disrepair of the body. And although it might not occur right away, you will see problems over time. And so people, I know the Canadian statistics are something like 60 to 70% of the Canadian population has a gut issue.
Wow.
It's crazy. And that's just because of antibiotics and medications, stresses, lack of breastfeeding, and dead food supplies, and even what we're breathing in. Everything affects your biome affects your microbiome as well.
Sure.
And so most people have compromised guts. And so symptoms can be anything from bloating, having food intolerances, to even allergies. Having IBS is like the diarrhea, constipation
Or
situation, having
stomach
lack
aches.
of motility, stomach aches when you eat. Like, an interesting thing is that children, at least in the 80s and stuff, because that's when I was a kid, they will react really quickly to foods that are not good for them. So if you take your kid out and they're eating like McDonald's and bad cake, your kids will often get tummy aches and earaches, and they won't feel well because that's their body's really acute signaling system.
Right.
But over time, when you keep pummeling not good foods for your body to survive, it realizes that its signaling isn't working, so it'll divert and take energy elsewhere. So over time, you won't get those belly aches anymore. But what'll end up happening is that your body will start to have disrepair in other areas.
Right.
And it'll happen over a slow period of time potentially.
So would that like losing your vision or like things that your brain is compensating? I don't know, I'm trying to make connections here. It's
Yeah.
like your body will say, okay, enough of this, let's say one item is not really good for you, and you keep doing that, then maybe you start losing your sight, or you have bad skin. Because when I think about teenagers with maybe acne and things like that, and I remember a holistic friend of mine who says it's just like actually your blood has been somewhat poisoned, and it's just your body telling you that you need to stop something or add something in your body, and it will go away for perfect skin. So it's more of an imbalance after some time of your body not giving you the message.
Yeah.
So when you are on that level, what is it that you must do? That your body is no longer telling you, look, this is exactly what's making you sick, and it's diverting. How do we go
You
back?
will still have symptoms. Somebody that gets cancer and they're like shocked. They're not connected.
Right.
You will have symptomology. It can be anything from toenail fungus to the way that it'll manifest is different in each person based on your biochemical composition and your stressors and all that stuff. Genetics plays like a 30%, and the rest is epigenetic stuff. You will have symptomology. It could be you start to have like weird twitches, like there's certain deficiencies that are linked to certain symptoms.
Right, and you can even like you said, lack of memory sometimes.
Inability
Or-
to sleep. Inability to breathe properly, having no endurance when you exercise, having no energy,
What
needing
about
coffee,
what about anxiety?
anxiety.
Like emotional systems. Would that be part of the system trying to tell you? Something is wrong with the system.
You have
now
gut
you've got anxiety
dysbiosis.
or anger or some emotions.
100%. Well, the way I understand it, everything is rooted in the metaphysical actually before it becomes the physical. So that's
Right.
a whole interesting conversation too.
The other way around. Yeah.
And anger heats in the body, and it'll create acidosis. So then you're the opposite of alkalizing. So then you're actually moving your way into an acidic state, and that's where things like osteoporosis and cancer can develop over time.
Sure.
And they say that the seat of anger is actually the liver. So usually if you've got a lot of anger, it's stored in your liver, you've got a congested liver, and that's part of your digestive system. You really have to work on releasing that. And I know that I think you wanted to also touch base on like practices, but shadow work practices, mindfulness practices, connection practices,
Breathing.
connecting with nature,
Right.
and getting over those inner dialogues and self-limiting beliefs and traumas is really important for you to actually live a disease-free life. In fact, it plays more of a role than food.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, so let's get there, because this is something I wanted to also address.
Yeah.
Is so can one I'm just going to ask the question. Okay, we addressed a lot of it already. How
It's a
do you know
natural
the
flow,
body needs
natural flow
something? You were
thing.
going in North Africa. Okay, so let's look at it from like the vibrational, and we can call it the ethereal platform, in a sense, where if we would say it's mind over body, but then it's like your being, your spark, your soul, we could say, or your real self over mind too. So mind over body, yes, we can be really strong and like overcome the gross material.
Yeah.
But then now let's go more ethereal a little bit and go down. So for example, in North Africa and in India, a lot of the people of the desert or the yogis, they live on very little food. Apparently the Bedouins, they have a little bit of rice per day and they spend the whole day in the desert and a little bit of water. So is that something that you could understand as the ethereal being stronger than the body, and they can survive in that a very long and healthy life with very little food? So how do we express that for a person who never heard of it, in a sense?
Yeah, absolutely. This is 100% true. One of the most interesting books that I read when I was in school was Healthy at 100. And when they had gone across the world, they had looked at different populations that lived really long lives. Not the Blue Zones book, another one. And most of them had very little food. And they all ate different things. So it wasn't like, oh, the Mediterranean diet is the way to go, or like non-carbohydrates, or these people are keto. Like that was non-existent. What they had was they ate very low calories. They had community, and they had almost like an unadulterated food supply, and they had the outdoors. So they were connected to the environment. And
Right.
you have these societies, and I believe, I don't know if I wouldn't recommend that to like the average human living in our society just now. Like, you have to get there, but we can survive off of the elements of the planet. Like, where food only plays a really small role.
Right.
And if the contrast of it is what you see is the underpinning of a lot of disease is overeating.
Exactly. That's something I was thinking about
Yeah.
it, because we are taught in schools, and it's like, they create this idea of calories,
The food
counting,
pyramid, or
and it's
the
so
food plate.
stressful. And then the diet, like diet doesn't mean, for me, diet means what you put inside your eyes, your nose, and your mouth, and like even over your skin. That's diet, and what you hear. But the myth of diet that was created was that you have to eat less and you have to control it, and then most people were hungry. And then when you're hungry and they're focused in not eating, now you actually have a mental imbalance too. So to align everything, body, mind, and soul, like we were saying, I'd say that what we need is more a conscious movement where you listen to your body very closely. You get back to nature, not in a sense that you just like become a hippie, but you get back to being alone, being in nature, going for walks, and also eating what I say close to earth.
Yes.
The closer to earth, the better,
Yes.
instead of things that you just get off the shelf, and they have tons of additives and things like that. So one question that I was thinking is, like, if the energy that keeps the body machine alive and working is a spiritual one, let's say if we conclude that, okay, so if we are here, we are spiritual beings in a material body, and what maintains the body is really spiritual, and we are just adding on, and eating is awesome, it's delicious, and we are doing with taste, all these things.
It's a great perk of being in this plane.
It's fabulous. It's like you can put things together and you can try different fruits and everything. So how to marry both in an easy way and not in a stressful way?
Yeah.
And realizing that consciously.
Yeah. Well, let's say if you take the example of sunshine and vitamin D. So you know that you can produce all the vitamin D3 that you need just through the sun. In fact, I'm not even a fan of supplementation. I think when you live in third world cold climates, might be a bit of a different conversation, but at the same time, are you even absorbing all of it? So let's say you spend X amount of time in the sun, you will get all the vitamins that you need to maintain your immune system. If you ground bare feet on, like, we're not actually supposed to be wearing shoes. I would say the invention of the rubber sole has been one of the most detrimental things that's ever been invented.
Awful.
And some people will say, no, the nuclear bomb. But
Awful.
rubber-soled shoes have removed the human from all of the ionic components and all of the soil microorganisms that keep us actually alive. And
the
keep
connection.
us and the connection. And so you have an ionic exchange with Mother Earth, right, with Gaia, as you walk bare feet. And so you give your positive ions, which are sort of the ones behind diseases,
Right.
and your radiations and all that stuff. And then Mother Nature gives you the negative ions that you need to rebalance and to rebalance your energy centers and stuff. And so we've lost a big connection of that. So if you just take those
Big.
two prime examples, which are really big in even my practice, like if you are a client of mine, you will get, in the lifestyle section, you're going to get a grounding routine.
Right.
Like if you cannot find a time or place to go out in nature, I would recommend strongly that you change your lifestyle to do it, because otherwise you're just kind of like a hamster on a wheel.
Right.
Grounding is so profoundly impactful that you could choose to change nothing else in your life.
Yes.
And if you ground, you will see insane differences.
And I even heard on this level, that you can actually be grounding artificially, in a sense that I think that like some people have systems where you put on your bed and then you ground your bed to the ground,
Yeah.
and while you sleep,
Yes.
you're actually doing that. If you
Yes.
live in the cities or in places where it's hard for you to take your shoes off, like in Canada.
100%,
and
yeah.
as an Eskimo, it's like grounding on ice is probably not much
Yeah,
fun.
you there are ways, like subterranean ways, you can ground your bedroom. I know my sister's looking deeply into that right now. I'm a little bit knowledgeable about how to exactly ground your bedroom. I know you can ground your person, like if
Right.
you're sleeping in bed, you can connect yourself with grounding straps to a rod that's outdoors. It doesn't
I
work
heard
if
that,
you're
yeah.
on the third floor of a cement apartment building in a city necessarily, but if
Sure.
you have like what some people have, backyards, you can create a grounding system for yourself.
Right.
And you can completely repair yourself while you sleep.
It's amazing. Apparently, it removes inflammation.
Huge. You can grounding 2 hours a day removes. You can cure diseases. Like, and I'm not saying this like I'm not making this up. This is actually science.
It's science,
Like
yeah.
this is literally people that have gone on and done experiments. There's a free documentary on YouTube called Earthing, which I recommend to every single person to watch. It's free, and it is exactly this story about how somebody cured their inflammation and all their diseases. I mean, you've got a whole host of different medical practitioners and scientists that are onto this, and I mean, this is not like any type of woohoo kind of thing, right?
Sure,
like
it's
this is
not like
legitimate,
a
like
horse.
amazing, and the results speak for themselves, because I would
Exactly.
challenge somebody, go and do it and then tell me how you feel.
Yes.
You know.
I was living in Los Angeles in Beverly Hills, and sometimes we would go for walks, and I would, or myself, and I would, after my walk or something, on my rubber shoes, because that's what you wear, I would take them off, and I would go even in a little like patch of earth, and I would just stand there for a little bit. I was like, okay, and it was hilarious because people would go by, and it's like in Beverly Hills, it's like, what is she doing next to the tree, standing there, this weirdo? And I'm like just laughing because I'm thinking, I'm actually getting some connection here, and I'm releasing a lot of stress. And I'm getting a little sun, and I'm super healthy, and you guys are in your car and coming out, with your shoes, and then stopping on some strange restaurants, or they call it restaurants, that are not really serving food to begin with. So
it's funny, if we actually sit quietly with ourselves and connect, we tend to have the answers of what we're drawn to.
Yes.
Like if you feel the need to take off your shoes and be in the bare feet, if you feel the need to be in the sunshine, you have the answers. Your body knows what it needs, by the way. Like you don't need 12 diagnostic tests.
Yeah, you
That's a
don't
whole
need
other
like
topic, but
12 people telling
you know when something is offbeat, and you know when something's wrong. And instead of us outsourcing our power all the time to everybody, including nutrition specialists, we need to be looking inwards.
Right.
We need to be connecting inwards.
I
And so
agree.
just to finish off the last point, so
Yes.
if you take grounding and sunshine as 2 examples, and you know that you can produce vitamins and nutrients and rid your body of inflammation and rid your body of negative ions, positive ions, then how can you say that nature can't nourish you,
Of course.
right?
And to add to that, the ocean, for example, being where we are, we go sometimes to the oceans and we think, wow, I'm feeling nourished. It's like the salt in the water. If you stay long enough, the sun and the salt water, you start feeling, wow, this is actually giving me nourishment.
Yeah.
That is so potent, right?
Yeah,
It's
and
incredible.
you get iodine from just being around the sea.
Right.
So that's another big one too, because most people are iodine deficient.
Exactly.
So then you have thyroid problems and thyroid cancers and all these things.
So the iodine,
know?
if I don't have the sea, where do I get it?
Sea
Proper-
stuff.
proper
Stuff like
sea,
algae
right? Proper-
and seaweed and that kind of stuff.
And
that's
salt, too.
clean. Yeah, that's clean, because the oceans are polluted today, and so it's tough. We are living in a very polluted world that's been adulterated in a lot of ways. It's against the best interests of the species, all the species that are living here, but definitely for humans.
But you can find.
But you
the
can.
clean
There are
spots.
lots of great people that are out there looking for the purest and the best, and you can definitely go into any of the algae, go into dulse, go into kelp, go into sort of that whole family of foods, and you can get a ton of iodine from that. I mean, if you put a teaspoon of something like spirulina in your water every morning, you'll see life-changing differences there as well. I mean,
Amazing.
Small things create
Small
big
things.
impacts.
Great.
Especially
great.
if you're like minded and excited about it, because your belief system has a lot to do with how successful something is going to be in your life as
To
well.
yourself as well.
Yeah.
Yes, it's believing is actually existing in a sense. So health. I mean, let's go a little bit politics in a sense. Not really, but it is shocking this past 2 years. This is that we've been like people have been masked, and the health organizations in the world saying no sun, stay home, put a mask on and everything. So it goes against everything science actually talks about it. So let's say for the people who did that and they were innocent and they thought they were doing the right thing and blah blah blah, how to very quickly get your power back and get your health back, because you're probably suffering now from maybe a lung thing or whatever. How do we get quickly, and why would the organizations in the world, the health organizations,
why would that been the process?
Exactly. Why would they do that? What's the idea?
So to answer your first question, and I am constantly blown away at the regeneration and the resilience of the human body. The vessel is absolutely amazing. We are super lucky. And of course, there's an energy that governs the whole thing. If you have been masked and isolated for 2 years and you are just getting out into the wild again for the first time, get into nature. Yeah,
Right.
Get into nature. And hopefully when you were at home, you were maybe doing you more. Maybe you were exercising more. Maybe you were following a passion project. So you were keeping yourself in a still positive frame of mind.
Right.
And maybe you were caring about what you were eating. You were doing more home cooked meals. So you were controlling what you were putting in your body. So you might not be in that much of a state of disrepair. But when you remove the access to the biome to nourish us by breathing, one of the first things you need to do is breathe. You need to be in sunshine. And the more body that you can expose to sun, the better it actually is for your vitamin D.
Right.
So a person that puts one fingernail out or one hand out, I mean, they're not going to get the same capacity as a person that's going out maybe topless or in a bathing suit or whatever it is. So I would say get back out there, get back into your element where you're supposed to be. And again, I'm going to come back to grounding. Grounding is one of the fastest ways to see quick turnaround.
Take your shoes off.
And then focus on your microbiome.
Yeah.
So re-inoculate your good gut bacteria.
Cool.
Yeah.
Oh, so it's not that hard in the end.
I think that we've been told that everything is a lot harder than it's supposed to be.
I agree.
And I think that we've lived too much in disempowerment and scarcity.
Yes.
And that is completely the opposite to the real power that the human being has in this world.
That's an alternative reality, I would say.
Yeah.
By completely fabricated.
Yeah. And when you're in stress and fear, you actually suppress your stomach acid, you undiversify your microbiome in the gut. Like there are so many long-ranging effects to that it's, I don't know, it's hard to believe that it's still something that goes on today. Like I'm hoping that this is this pivotal point in our history where we're actually able to see things as they really are.
Right.
When you look at these governing organizations, and one of the best lines that I ever heard was, if you want to know truly what something is about, follow the capital. So I always ask people, like, well, do you know who funds what? Do you know who owns what? Do you know how something was started? Like, people are often shocked when, you tell them, well, chemotherapy is actually like mustard gas from like one of the world wars. They didn't know what to do with all these extra chemicals after the war machine was over.
They wanted to make money.
They wanted to make money. They wanted to disperse of it. They wanted to utilize it another way. So they pumped it into our environment, and they put it in all of our products, and they put it in all kinds of materials and in our medical supply systems. And so when you learn history is basically like what I like to tell people. And if you get connected and use your critical mind, it doesn't become that complicated to sort of see that maybe certain organizations are there for not your very best interests at mind, not to sound super negative, because
but it's not there for your health in a sense.
No.
It's like I say that the medical industry, unfortunately, would not prosper if everybody's healthy.
Of course
because
not.
who are they going to cure? Who are they going to operate on?
Yeah.
So they need sick people around.
Oh yeah,
And
it's sick care. It's not health care. I mean, there's a trillions of dollars that are in this industry. Again, it's literally about following the capital. Like
Yes.
it's not.
It's an easy.
Easy road for people that seem shocked about it. Like
Really?
again, if you outsource your power to someone else, it's only a matter of time until they potentially become corrupted. It's not necessarily an individual's fault. I feel like we as in the human realm have the ability all the time to make select choices. And I
Sure.
think that we get seduced by the human realm and by all of the pleasures and all of the instant gratifications and all of the power that can come with being in this realm.
Sure.
And I see many people that chase that and are bought by it. And
Easily.
when you disconnect people from nature and you disconnect people from humans and unconditional love,
And kill the empathy.
and
which
sure,
is-
no empathy, no compassion, you keep them in low vibration, they do chase those material things too.
Sure. Yeah.
So
I think we need an empathy boosting.
an empathy booster.
boosting machine.
Hey, you decalcify your pineal gland, you
Sure,
know,
that
and
would-
mindfulness practices come really into that as well, right? So-
Let's talk about juicing. I wanted to just like address quickly the advantage of juicing instead of chewing. Is there an advantage, or chewing is still good?
Yes, chewing is still good.
Okay.
We have not gotten rid of chewing.
Right. I like chewing.
Yeah, I like to chew too.
Exactly.
There's lots of benefits, including keeping your jaw in functioning order when you
Exactly.
chew.
So you can talk
yeah,
later.
Yeah, exactly. So juicing is cool because in a perfect world, before all of the stuff that's been going on in our world has come to fruition, we wouldn't really need to have machines that extract juice from fiber of fruits and vegetables. The thing is that today it can be really advantageous because we do live in a world where our soils are depleted and we're getting really strong nutrients out of simply eating a whole fruit and vegetable has become a bit harder because
Right.
in order for you to assimilate the nutrients from a whole food, you need to have the proper gut diversity in order to do that. And if you ever hear of people that have allergies to strawberries or basic fruits and vegetables, they're like, oh, I can't eat that. They're missing the bacteria in their microbiome to be able to actually break it down, so their body is thinking it's a poison.
Right.
And they're creating a negative reaction to it. So juicing comes in to help that kind of situation. Because when
it would be like a vitamin in a sense. It's like
it's
an
concentrated,
add-on.
yeah. So
Add-on.
it's like you take away the fiber, which is the difficult part to digest.
Right.
And so because whenever you digest anything and it has to be broken down, it has specifically cellulose and fiber, your body has to donate like up to 50% of its energy in order to allow that process. And other processes in the body stop working, including detoxification.
Right.
So if you are removing that component of the digestive process and you're bringing in a liquid that's very, very high nutrient density, it's being assimilated a lot more quickly across your gut wall and into your bloodstream. So you're able to actually bring those nutrients through the blood and to the cells at a much faster rate. And so you're also able to juice 20 carrots and drink the juice of 20 carrots and the nutrients that come from 20 carrots, but are you going to eat? I'm not sitting around eating 20 carrots in a row. Like if I get to that point in my life, you guys have to come rescue me.
Yeah,
you know?
that's how I would do that day.
It's most people won't be eating that many fruits and vegetables.
Sure.
So it gives you the ability to really get a massive boost of nutrients.
Right.
And so for people that are sick or they have a lot of gut issues, juicing specifically vegetables can be life-changing.
Wonderful, wonderful. So that's good. So, but we keep chewing. So the GMOs. So that's a big thing because we've been adapting. The body had to like somewhat, adapt it to
Yeah.
this new things. And I remember posting something the other day, and my friend said, "Oh, there is somebody in France said there is seeds in the papaya." Or seeds in the watermelon, and it's like all these seedless things. So how did the body deal with it? And of course, not being fanatical on where you can't find GMO, is there hope even in the GMO realm? How do we deal with that?
I believe there's hope always because I know how resilient we are as people, as a species on this planet, and you can reverse quite a lot of things. It is very scary when you start manipulating gene structures and playing at the molecular level in a wild system where you simply can't contain the long-ranging effects that could have. So even if you have crops that are genetically modified, that's blowing off and getting
Elsewhere.
we're not in a closed system. Everything is connected in this entire planet. and then you're using a lot of different chemicals to be able to proliferate those types of genetically modified crops as well. And so you have like one aspect is like the chemical glyphosate will actually find its way into the gut microbiome and wreak a lot of havoc and cause a lot of issues in people. And a lot of people have only seen recovery by doing glyphosate detoxifications, which is removing that chemical from your body. That's one aspect of it. In terms of the actual modified fruits and vegetables and this and that, well, I think that you can eat many things. We can potentially say that we're omnivores, but it doesn't mean that we're getting the best out of those things. Just because we can survive or not have an immediate reaction to something doesn't mean that long term there aren't any long term effects, or that if we consistently continue to eat something that's of inferior quality, over time we will degrade. Our organism will degrade.
Right.
And that's what those kinds of things are. And
so you would recommend, I mean, I believe that non-GMOs, of course, but being that you're not able to have that all the time, so you have to cope. But as human beings and conscious of this problem, going back to real seeds and removing what we've been pushed on, just like there's liquids or chemicals in the air or whatever, going back, meaning maybe farmers can actually go back to the real seeds and remove the other ones and do less farming, but better farming.
100%. Heritage seeds, we have a lot of choice still, and Mother Earth renews itself.
Yes.
And so if you go back to good soil practices and you're going back to heritage seeds and you're saying no to having this in your environment, over time it will weed itself out. It will return. And I think that we should definitely try and go in that direction for sure. I think we already kind of are.
We are. It's just like we have the fan effect. It's like you turn it off and it keeps going. Yeah. So then, if you're going to turn it the other way, then you have to wait and then turn it. So I think it is turning now, because the amount of people, of course, in our environment, the amount of people that are more conscious, not only health conscious, but getting spirituality in a deeper meaning of spirituality, not religiosity, but more in real spirituality. They're really going and reversing the thing. The individual has a lot of power to make change. If you're not going to go and grow your own food, like many of us are trying to do these days or looking to do, you can vote with what you choose to spend your money and time on, what you choose to consume. Absolutely. So when the mass majority of the population states that they don't want a certain type of food and they want this kind of quality, then producers have no choice. If they want to survive and be in this economy, as long as this economy is the way that it is, then they will also shift. So we are all change makers in our own right. Absolutely.
We just have to step into being able to say no.
Say no. We have to say no.
We have to say no.
It brings the idea that I remember actually as a little girl in Brazil, like my family, we would actually most of the time build our own things because it was fun. It's like you sit with your dad and you like you build your own little truck, or you build you make a little doll with your mom or with your granny, or you make a crochet thing. So it was really beautiful. And then we got separated. And I remember vividly the first product that I saw from China. And it was like a plastic thing, and it was an ugly thing, and it was like light. And I remember taking it, and it's like, this thing is shallow, which it connects. I hope it's going to connect with a lot of people. How shallow it is because it was glittery, it was light, because when you make things with wood, they're solid, and it's like they have a weight to it. And it was like, oh, this is weird, but it was glittering.
There was nothing on the inside.
It was like nothing in the inside, but I think that was totally infiltrated and jammed down the human
100%.
Being throat. It's like buy cheap. And another thing we were discussing the other day is how propaganda has brought people constantly to this empowering place where you can't really afford it.
Yeah.
You can't read. It's like all commercials, like even cars. So there's like $60,000. We will give you $3,000 discount. Meaning, if I have $60,000, I probably have $63,000. Why are you giving me a discount? Is because the propaganda is telling you you actually want that, but you can't afford it. So that has been jammed. So that combination, I think, it's deadly for the human being and for the empowered mind. And so to claim again 100%. The idea where like, okay, I prefer to have less things, but I want solid things. And then you vote with your money.
Yeah.
And that's where things are going to shift more.
Yeah.
Fashion industry for us is like, okay, if you buy something that is colored with unnatural colors, it's probably cheaper, it won't last as long, but you know, you have it that, well, do you need 12 pair of jeans? You know what I mean? Maybe you have only one, and a good one. And it's a more expensive one, but you don't need 12. So I think we are voting more with our actions, and that's where the hope is.
Yeah,
And that's
no.
the empowerment.
Yes, yeah, 100% I agree. Like everything is about disempowering people and selling them. It's almost like a manipulation, right? So it's a house of cards. You deem this glass of water to have X amount of value, and then you make everybody else feel that they need to have a glass of water like that if they want to feel valuable. And so the people are identifying so much with their materialisms in the world, and they're trying to fill themselves up through lack of connection with 12 pairs of one same thing versus being satisfied with one or two of that very same thing and connecting in other ways.
Right.
I mean, this is like conversations that you can have with like your grandparents, and they say, when I was young, things had value. Sure. They were right, because things had way more value. Like you played with your one block of toys and it was all made out of wood and it was real. And then as you get older, I mean, as you move forward in society, your grandkids may have 40 toys, but they're cheap, they break, they're made with lead overseas. Like the whole system has changed and been completely cheapened. And then as humans, we've also lost our sense of value by wanting more and by stepping into our rightful birthright, which is all the abundance and all the beauty of this planet, right?
So the mind has been tweaked into believing that more shallow things is better, and then the consistent,
more is better,
you know, more is better, but not only more is better because of quantity, but also the quality has diminished. So you always feeling lack. Yeah. And the propaganda is the lack. It's like if I buy that car, it's like I have not only the identity crisis, but now I can't really afford it, so they're giving me a little discount, so now I can afford it, meaning you're not capable. So it's a whole mind game.
Oh yeah, you create scarcity. I mean, when I learned the economic model, I remember thinking, so you can't have this economy if you don't have scarcity.
Sure.
And the teacher was like, exactly. And I was like, I didn't look at it the way that the level that I'm looking at things exactly today, but I knew even then that it didn't make sense to me, because if you didn't have scarcity, you had no value. It seemed so basic. It seems so disconnected. Like that model is like, and then you're building entire foundations and entire civilizations and birthing humans into the system and manipulating the way that they think, right? Like, and thinking that's the way that it is.
Yes.
It's
well, it brought us here today, and we are changing the game one person at a time.
Yeah.
And that's how we're going to go.
One conversation at a time, too.
Exactly. So now, how would be, let's describe in 5-10 years, what is the world you are living in?
Oh, man.
Yes. What is it that we have? What is it that we do? How does it work?
Honestly, I would love to see within 5 or 10 years, I would love for there to be a complete crumble of the current system, because I think it's falsely built up and serving a very small subset of people and keeps people in a very disempowered position. I would love there to be a system that's been redefined, and it's not to say that there's not going to be technology or there's not going to be any progress that way. I think it's about the interpretation and the use of that technology. And I think we have to move away from a system of governance, which is a very top-down, almost dictatorial system, into one that goes right into the hands of the people in empowered states.
Right.
You know.
So I find it interesting in the mind game manipulation, especially of TV and propaganda, how they actually speak in the present tense. Present tense. So
like
it's where it's like, okay, that's why I asked the question. So I love your desire, but let's try to speak in the present tense, where it's already there. It's already happening. I observed this. I've been observing this for a long time. It's like even Elon Musk or whoever, the movers and shakers, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
They don't talk like I would like it to be. It is already. It is like we have a system. The system is already work. And I came across something where this guy now is this crazy guy saying humans are humans are hackable animals. He's not saying humans will be. He already says it is.
Yeah.
So today, the system that you see, how is it? It's already happening. It's already here. How does it work?
That's true.
Like,
Yeah, it's powerful.
like we have beautiful, delicious food and farms that sustain human life properly, and we
Yes.
have a monetary system that is healthy. We have a healthy capitalism where people do exchange value because they are happy people and they like each other, and there's a lot of communication and a lot of empowered people, and the leaders are actually empowered people that care for the population instead of just somebody up in some place or behind some Pentagon or
Curtain,
things
yeah.
like that. These things are already happening.
Yes.
And I have interviewed somebody not too long ago who talks about alternative timelines, which is, I find it interesting.
Yes.
It's that I feel that when we take responsibility to think and feel, being that if we come across from the spiritual already to the material, that we are thinking and feeling this prosperous society that we want to live in, and we keep visualizing and imagining that and working towards that, it's going to manifest much faster.
Yes.
So how do you feel
100%. I want to live in your world.
Well, we need our world.
100%. And I'm all about shifting, being able to shift timelines and create your own reality on a regular basis. And words are so powerful. What you literally say is like a contract with the universe around you. And I think that we are in the process of making that happen for us. And yes,
and realizing that is the reality.
And that is the real reality of things. And
Right.
so we are energetic beings that have infinite amount of unbelievable powers, and everything that we are living should be nourishing the mechanisms that make us be able to potentiate in the world around us.
And in prosperity, meaning that there is no
100%.
lack, there is no sickness.
No.
It's-
They say we're going in a direction where illness is not going to be a thing. So
Yes.
industries that rely on sick care are not happy,
Of course not.
so to speak.
That's why they're
That's
freaking
why
out.
they're creating crazy situations occur, so
Sure.
that they can hold on to power as long as possible. Because in a world of ultimate empowerment and realization about how we can manipulate energy and how life-giving it is, you actually have these systems like, I don't want to call it utopia, but you recognize that all of the low frequency things that keep us from being our true highest selves are not required and are not there.
No.
And so absolutely there's equal, equal is not even probably the right word to use, because I feel like that word was given to us. You can't have equality if you don't have inequality. So,
Exactly.
but I'm probably not coming up with the proper terminology. I think that it's kind of like you're building a world that you're shifting away from something you've been conditioned into a totally different type of mindset, and that comes with figuring it out at the same time.
Yes.
But
yes.
anything that we are living should be something that supports thrivehood.
Yes.
We should be thriving.
Yes.
And everything that impersses.
Exactly.
And then I'm a big fan of the unconditional love component, because
Yes.
it is the highest frequency, and you are just resonating so high.
Yes.
And you feel so amazing, and then everything around you is also resonating that high when you stay in that frequency. And
Yes.
we have to learn what unconditional love is, because we only know conditions.
Yes, everything is conditioned, and I think that the ultimate goal would be to live in the world we can feel loved and cared for all the
All
time,
the time.
even by strangers, which is the tribes. The tribes, they were so experts, and they are still today, and that's why there was a big hunting down those indigenous ideas and ideals, because they actually cared for one another, they forgave one another, they spoke about their vulnerability, they spoke about what they needed and what they wanted. And we have actually been trained into not even knowing what you want, and you have somebody else's idea of what is ideal for you.
Somebody else is telling you what to think and how to be.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I think that, as you know, my podcast is called Reclaim Your Mind. The name is because until you have your mind proper established under your consciousness, which is the higher human consciousness, and you figure out in baby steps and as much as you can to actually have your mind under control and remove from the control of somebody else actually designing a narrative that is not real. So first realize this is not real. Well, let me see what's really happening here, and then look at that first, and then you have your mind for yourself. That's the step one for me.
So powerful. By the way, I love the name of your podcast.
Thank you. So it's like we first reclaim, and then I say, well, remove consent now, because I'm a little bit of an activist. So it's like, okay, now remove consent. It's like
words
totally,
and consent is a contract that you're making.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So if you're consenting to, I don't know, craziness anywhere, then remove consent, and let's just, bring it back home, close to the earth, keep healthy, get healthy, and then, you will be able to have real connections with another human being that can actually be vulnerable and ask for love too. And if you can't ask for love, then you better start learning how.
I think that's the phase of the healing that people are going through or need to go through, those that aren't really there yet.
They're not superhuman.
But, but it's interesting. I just think there's just such a big shift happening right now. For me, it's actually, I feel very excited, more excited than ever, because when you get activated to something that you always felt inside of you was the right direction, but you never had the vocabulary or the environment around you to help you figure that out. And then all of a sudden you're in an environment where it's becoming so clear, and then you keep bringing into your ether like the frequency of individuals and other people on the same mission. You feel like you're connecting with your life's purpose, and that is extremely powerful. So I'm in a very positive state of mind, and I choose to focus on that kind of stuff too. So and I think all of us, we're kind of divided between the geopolitical states of things and just like all that stuff, like the realism of the plane that we're in, and also making sure that we stay high vibration and move that kind of along and create our own timeline and that's the frequency that we want. So yeah, I have actually a lot of hope, because at the end of the day, if it doesn't work out everywhere, it'll work out somewhere. It'll work out where I am. Where everybody, right? Like it's like if you're in touch with your power, you don't really have fear of, and what is the future anyway? Because some people argue and say that their time is not real. So you have every second or every moment is a time where you're potentiating yourself and just and living exactly the way that you want to live. Every choice, every eye blink, everything that you eat, every day your body renews itself. If you want to look at the cycle of the human cellular replication, renewal and stuff, you have the ability every day. You're making a new body every single day. You know how powerful that is?
Crazy.
Every day you wake up is a new day to actually show up to the life that you want and the feeling state that you want.
Yeah.
So it's so inspirational and it's exciting, and people have to be excited to live.
Yeah, enthusiasm.
We're actually lucky. Yeah, it's not easy, but we're lucky to
very blessed
to feel what we feel, to have our senses about us, right?
Yeah. I think that any other species, they have the same environment to say, but they don't have the same consciousness. No. And the consciousness we were given as human is very important, and we should not just misuse it or just undermine it. It's huge to be aware, constantly aware of our environment. That is the reason why education has been to muffle this potential completely, because a person who is fully aware cannot be controlled.
Oh yeah.
Cannot be controlled. Apart from themselves, is then being a sovereign being. It's because you actually are in control of yourself, your body, your vessel, and your environment, and you actually choosing for yourself. not in a selfish way, because they also make this guilty trip about like, oh, now you're selfish, if it's not for the common good. It's like, okay, who is to define what is the common good? If it's not helping me, how is it a common good to begin with? If it's hurting me, it's not that common anyway. So
it's like
common sense, it's like it's not that common. So
what's in the interest of public good is how many things get passed.
So for me, it's like one person at a time, because it will happen in the individual level. The moment you have enthusiasm and you have your full mind and control over your mind and your body and your sovereignty, now you can actually help another.
Yeah.
Because if not, you're halfway a little depressed or whatever. So what else? Is there anything else you want to share that you think it would be like really good for anybody who might be on the other spectrum of like lack of enthusiasm, kind of depressed, a lot of suicides and sadly on earth right now. So like anybody who's in the other end, what is the baby steps? Where do you go from here?
So actionable things are really what makes change, because you can manifest on your sofa or think about the things that you want, but you attract what you are, not what you actually want. So if somebody is in a state where they don't know where to begin, turn off your electronic devices, get up out of your environment, whatever environment that is, change your environment, be in nature.
Right.
Because in nature, you're in quietness and you're in connection, and answers come to you
immediately.
You don't need anybody else. You don't even need to watch YouTube videos. I mean, there's a ton of really great resources out there. Like, we could give a whole list of like who you should be listening to and talking to, and start here and here and here. You can have an entire like program set up for people, but at the end of the day, that doesn't help them reconnect with their own power. That is an inside job, and even like you can call it the hero's journey. This idea that you are starting an adventure with yourself, within yourself, to become your highest self. Right. And that it's going to take you on these crazy roads, and you're going to have to face some dragons, and you're going to have to slay those dragons. And when you return, you will be a hero. You'll be the hero of your own life.
Of course.
And so I think for me, it's just whatever it is that you're doing right now that isn't working for you, it's not working for you. So just stop it.
Right.
Like, just make a change, try something new. like it's like, I don't know what to do. Well, what you're currently doing isn't working. So anything else that you do that's different will be better than what you're currently doing.
Yes.
So there's just so many options that there's never a one package deal. There's never a one Band-Aid. It's
of course.
You realizing it's like the 1977 film The Network. You have to get mad. First, you have to decide that I don't want to take this anymore. You have to have that conversation with yourself, and you have to say, I want more. I am more valuable than this, and this is not what I'm settling for. And then you have to rise, and the analogy works for that too, because you physically rise, and then you rise in power, and you go out, outside. Just go for a walk is what I would say.
Yes.
Like,
start there.
I had a really difficult breakup back in when I was still in Montreal many years ago. I just really liked a guy, and after many, many months of dating, he just didn't fall in love, and it was really heartbreaking for me. So I cried for 5 days when we broke up, and I remember there was a point where I was crying on my living room floor. And I remember for me it was impactful because I said, there's nowhere lower to go than here. You can only go higher.
Sure.
So if you're looking to, rise above, go sit on your floor.
Yes.
And then from there, you start there, and then you move up. And I remember after the 5th day, I had no more tears. And I all of a sudden got like that whole picture of the phoenix rising. Right. And I literally put my hands down and I rose up, and I started a whole new life.
Cool.
And I never looked back.
Yeah.
And it just, I think the analogy, I think we sometimes need to connect with our symbolism as well.
Sure.
What makes us feel powerful.
Sure, absolutely. Yes.
Yeah.
So we are rising.
We are rising. Yeah.
Yes, it's a constant rise. That's the beauty of life as well, is that, like you said, it's a journey, and it's a hero's journey where, you will face ups and downs, and there will be valleys, and there will be dragons, and then there will be great horses to ride on, and, it's a beauty. So anybody who is, low, can rise, and anybody who is up there can continue and give and share and have empathy and understanding and compassion to the ones that might be hurting right now. So I think it's a beautiful thing for us to to be in consideration always of walking on somebody else's shoes before judging. I think the judging has been enhanced immensely in this past 10 years, where everybody just decided that they know everything, they have studied enough, and now it's just like
The
judging.
online, the blogosphere / social media world.
Craziness is like, I know, and let me tell you.
It's structured in a way for that as well.
It was, yeah.
But
more empathy, more compassion, and walk in somebody else's shoes before, I mean, no judgment is better. That's the new thing for me, no judging. But if the mind is still pushing you to do that, at least try to, while you're judging, to see if you can understand what the other person is going through.
Oh yeah, having that compassion is absolutely key. Yeah. But if you're busy looking at you don't have time to look at other people.
Sure.
So the journey is inward. Inward gives you all the answers. So you're always just and only ever in competition with yourself.
Yes.
Different versions of you, different levels to yourself, to your expansion, to your knowledge, to your consciousness, to your own greatness. Yes. If you're focused on your own greatness, you not only don't have time for any of the low frequency sort of feelings and emotions and all that stuff, but you also start to grow in compassion and love. Because if you're really happy, you actually give happiness to other people.
Yes.
And you can see when they're not happy. And instead of being annoyed at that person because it's like, they have no reason to, why did they interrupt my energy field? Well, if your energy field is being interrupted, you don't have strong energy boundaries.
Right.
And so you start to give more compassion to people. And then that translates itself. And if you're a little supernova of high energy and high frequency, other people can feel you. They can feel you before they even see you. And you have to focus on that feeling state. So if you are focused on your own greatness, you're making everything else great around you. And you just don't have time to be like judging people.
And there's also less competition in a sense where when you understand that competition is like with yourself, it doesn't mean that you don't look at other people. Oh, look that they're doing it this way, and but I'm not competing directly with them. I'm just like getting inspired. Yeah. It's like, maybe I can try this way. Oh, they're trying this way. I'm going to go a different way.
Inspiration is amazing.
Yes.
They're going to be
get inspired all the time.
Oh my God, that's another part of high resonance, is that connecting with people to see how maybe somebody has figured something else out
that I don't know,
that you don't know. And that inquisition and that constant learning is what keeps you here too, because I don't want to ever get to a point where you know everything and you're like, I'm so bored, take me to another planet. I hope I don't get over there. I think that's why the human lifespan's under 100 years, because in 100 years you could never learn probably everything.
The curiosity the last blog I did was with George, and he talks about being humble and curious. That's the currency that is very important right now, is your humbleness and your curiosity, because it will keep us in enthusiasm and in growth. And that's what it's natural for us. It's like we are like flowers. It's like we keep growing. And then, there's a moment where we have to change form, but until that happens, we are like going towards...
It's still growing, because we don't know what that new form is. Maybe it's way cooler.
It might be.
But you're right. If you're not growing, you're stagnating. And if you're stagnating, it's a slow death, actually.
Yeah, and then
you're reverting.
You're reverting. Thank you so much, Tiff.
You're welcome. This was so great. Yeah. We can have more of these conversations off camera.
Yeah, we can do that. And so if there's anything like a little thing you want to say, to where do we find you, how, and why?
Yes.
Why we already know.
Why? Yeah. If you liked what you heard on any level. So I do a lot of work in my social media. I give a lot of really in-depth posts and tips. So if you are looking to level up your physical body and your mental state, and have some sort of empowering, motivational content, you can check me out at Crushing Healthy. That's my Instagram handle. And then other than that, I do quite a lot of work for WeVolve, and that's another really empowering site. And so that is at wevolve.io, and that's the health and wellness platform that focuses on reversing diseases, but all natural and pretty successfully. And if you stay on top of what's happening in social media, I have a website link there as well, so you can see a couple of things that I'm working on. And you can find me online.
You have a series coming on of animation and stuff.
Yeah, so I've started getting into animation videos right now, and I wanted to put a series together on YouTube that is going to touch on health, really interesting health topics. It'll be like food history or just interesting things about the human body, that might be some cool content for you to see, like short videos. And then I wanted to even move into like, you know, the more of the human condition things like love and things like emotion and the metaphysical space. So it hasn't been completely hashed out yet where I can give you guys a name and a tagline, but that's kind of the idea behind it. It's content creation is something I'm really passionate about, and reel making and just videos and high vibration, high resonance stuff. Like, we're here to create.
Yes.
Like,
Absolutely.
it is like a playground. You're here to create, and so whatever talents and gifts that you have, it is your responsibility to share those. Like, and you know that you're doing it right now.
No,
you
we're
guys,
doing it.
yeah. So
That's what we do.
Yeah,
Thank you.
exactly.
Yes, so I think following on Instagram is the main thing to find other places where we can see more of
Yeah,
your stuff.
exactly. So I have my WeEvolve link there. I've got my website link there, and then from there you can kind of like springboard off to other things. And then as I move through different content creation, I'm going to be expanding that as well.
Cool.
And
Can't wait.
yeah,
Oh.
there's a lot of different projects. I'm like in an excited space right now. So
Beautiful. Thank
yeah.
you so much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Oh, sorry.
No problem.
Thank you for having me.
Movies are very powerful, but when they talk about subjects that in such a black and white way, it like kind of not, it doesn't give
No,
it's
not
a full
whole.
picture.
It's not a
of, like,
holistic
it
picture.
It makes a little race or what's
and
division,
honestly,
no?
everything has been about depopulation.
And division.
Isn't
Yeah.
that crazy?
Everything for predictive programming in my grown-up years
Oh, yeah,
has been
totally.
about, we have this problem, there are too many humans on the planet,
And don't
don't
have
have
children.
babies, and
Yeah.
don't do this, and let's,
I
you
think
know,
since the 70s that became
That's
the
the thing.
prime
yeah.
Yeah.
New World Order mission
Yeah,
since the 70s.
that's what it became.
All the baby boomers started having kids, so they knew what they were coming up to.
Oh yeah,
But-
they've been working
To the
since then.
point that now, teenagers are like, I wouldn't bring a person into this world.
I have
Yeah,
this
my
conversation
son-
with my sister.
my
She's
son-
adamant. She thinks that, but she's not into global. She's very against what's going on with cabal, elitism, all this stuff. She just believes that we're in this nefarious time period, and that
That
no
having babies
person
is-
should have a child. And I'm always like, well, if you're educated and aware, and you have a community of individuals that are freedom fighters, don't
Why
you need
won't
more
you?
soldiers? Like, why would you?
Exactly.
Why would you therefore kowtow to this depopulation agenda?
Exactly.
Because in unity we are powerful.
Absolutely.
And-
And the more the merrier.
And you don't raise a child alone, you have a community. I love that. I agree with that. But you
Sure.
do have a community in places like this.
Sure.
You know, it's
Yeah,
not.
I think it didn't go long enough, right? It's just that it doesn't go. I think it doesn't push.